Ellie, dear Ellie, dear teacher,
Yep.
how can I even begin? Although we speak the same, um, yeah, mother tongue language, we're gonna try to do this in English for the sake of common understanding, I guess,
Yeah, yeah,
um,
sure.
for everybody. Um, on a personal note, I always thought and still think that if I will categorize maybe the five top players that I know in the world, Iwi players, wind synthesis players, personally, you're definitely gonna be on that list.
Wow.
Um, um, and it's not because I took lessons with you, but there is, I guess, in that particular list, my list, there's these players, all have a very specific thing which I find to be very, very special. Um, for example, I will say Judd Miller or Steve Tavaloni and Brecker, they all had their thing. And I would say that if I would think about you as an Iwi player, as a wind synthesis player, I would say phrasing.
Hmm.
Um, I would say harmony. I would say note selections. Um, just the way that you flow on the iwi for me is a very, very special thing. I do not know anyone even close to what I know from you, and if I'll hear you, I'll know it's you. So that's, I guess, what I can say about that. And there's so many things I'd like to talk to you about, but maybe I'll start maybe with the most simple thing that I start with everybody is maybe you can give a couple of words about your upbringing, and you can tell us how did it start for you with the iwi.
Well, first of all, I played trumpet for 10 years
Mm-hmm.
and from childhood. So trumpet was my first main instrument. That's what when I get the tonguing, the
The articulation,
the
right?
articulation and the tonguing, the double staccato, the triple staccato, and I was familiar to that. Unfortunately, I wasn't. I couldn't play the trumpet longer, so I quit the trumpet in the age of 18 after
Mm-hmm.
10 years playing,
Mm-hmm.
and um, and I moved to actually guitar. I took the guitar, and guitar was my main thing for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
Rock and all this, like I was influenced from guitar players, rock guitar players, like Eric Clapton, Jimi Hendrix, and guys like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then in the age of 21, I decided to go back to the trumpet, but it was very um, frustrating to start all over again. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, to start like a tune a day, to play long note in note, like low G. Um, so it was very frustrating, and I couldn't bear it, and I moved to saxophone. I started to play an alto saxophone. It was like 2 hours playing, and then I moved to tenor. And I don't know why. I mean, I can't explain that, but you just pick the horn, and then you feel that this is your sound. This is your voice,
Sounds
and
logical to me.
yeah, it's something that it's a mystery.
Mm.
But I played tenor for like 30 years. I studied in Berkeley film scoring and saxophone.
Mm-hmm.
I was a student of Joe Viola.
Mm-hmm.
And after Berkeley, I was doing a lot like jazz gig. I was, very fond of the jazz saxophone playing. And in the years like the 80s, late 80s, I've seen Michael Brecker, with the Iwi. And
Mm.
it was a master class in Berkeley, I remember. And it just blew my mind, it's something else.
Wow.
And I start to play actually on WX uh, 7. It was a first Yamaha
Mm-hmm.
thing. And for me, it was like a practice, just for practicing, because, you can't play in saxophone uh, every place, every time.
Right.
You need a special room, you need a special, it's otherwise all the neighborhood is just running after you. So for me, the WX was just a practice mute, a practice horn,
Mm-hmm.
and the sounds were not that. I wasn't in the analog world yet,
Mm.
so for me it was just the sounds of the WX. It came with some kind of a module. It wasn't that nice. Anyway, I didn't know how to play the horn. For me, it was just fingering.
Yeah.
And it took like 2 years that, like back and forth with WX till I realized that there's something in it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I moved to the Akai, the Iwi. I started with the Iwi 2020.
30/20.
3020, sorry.
Yeah.
3020. Um, this
Oh
guy.
yeah. This one.
Yeah, this guy, this model.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and also, again, you can't play only on that. You need the module. You need the module can without effects. It's just so you need the reverb. If you need the reverb, so you need a mixer, and then it became
Yeah.
like it's a drag to get out with the horn. So
Yeah.
it was only in my studio. I was playing only in my studio with this instrument, and only on special occasions, like special performance, I took the gear with me.
Mm-hmm.
But it was I was still did I didn't know how to really to play that. It sounded like I call it like a small organ Casio. It sounds like a toy. It doesn't sound
Yeah.
like a real horn. The
Right.
tonguing, I even didn't hold in my mouth the mouthpiece correctly.
Right.
The problem it was that there was nobody that will teach me how to do that. And I remember hearing Patchman demos in the first time, like in early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that this instrument can play. I mean, uh, and obviously Michael Brecker, everything that Michael was doing for me was like um, totally mind blowing.
Mm.
Um, I took it seriously. I believe only after 6 7 years playing this instrument, I took
Really?
it seriously. Yeah, it basically, in the beginning, it was just a practice, just for practice, just to maintenance my fingering or whatever. Sometimes I was practicing with a horn without sound, just like feel the fingering and just um,
Right.
earphone or something, just to hear a little bit. I wasn't with the gear or
Right.
I wasn't fond for the sound anyway. So
Right.
it took some years till I realized that I can play the instrument, and then when I did start to play that and I hold it correctly, and I realized that I can like control my dynamic, control my tonguing, my articulation, and control my octaves without glitching. every octave. Um, then I start to love the instrument.
Mm.
I think the breaking point was when the 4000 came to the market, because it was independent instrument. It
Mm-hmm.
was all the sounds and the effects were inside, and the sound were very good actually. Even the company, especially the Patchman, I use the Patchman. I'm still using the Patchman
Right.
sounds. And then I have the time. I can play everywhere with this
Right.
instrument, and I start to go more and more with the instrument. I start to play it more in gigs,
Right.
and 6 7 years ago, I actually quit the saxophone.
Right.
A lot of people ask me why, and I say that it's sound. For me, it's sound that I feel that I express myself much better with the iwi.
Mm-hmm.
It have more possibilities. It has more expression, and I feel more comfortable in the iwi.
Mm-hmm.
And for me now, it's so natural to play on this instrument. It's that I feel that it's legit instrument like any instrument. And for
Yeah.
me, it's music. It's not on what instrument you play. You're supposed to make people, or when you're playing, to expressing yourself. You have the one who listens have to be excited from that.
Right.
And if you're not exciting anyone, so it doesn't matter in which instrument you play. You can play on Stradivarius, but no one, s- if someone hear that and it doesn't make from him anything,
Right.
so it doesn't matter that it's like a 5 million piece of art.
Yeah.
It could be like a small piece of wood, but if you can do stuff musically, and you can express yourself, and more than that, you can. This is music. Music is dealing with that. You have to.
Right.
You, you make excitement for someone only with sounds, and it doesn't matter what is the instrument.
Right.
That's what I think. And for me,
Right.
we get that thing. So for me, this is my main instrument now. I'm playing. I like to play it. I'm playing it a lot. Um, I like to play it for myself also. I'm doing a lot of stuff with that.
Right.
It's also a writing instrument for me. I'm writing with keyboard, but I feel comfortable now write with Iwi. Iwi is my keyboard now.
Okay.
So I'm writing a lot with that also. Uh,
Interesting. Do you MIDI the notes in? That's what you do?
no. It's actually sometime I'm doing that. I'm playing, and then I can edit the MIDI that I'm playing.
Okay.
But no, I'm thinking about idea, and I'm writing it down on the paper, and then when I'm taking the instrument, I feel that I
Hmm.
can change the line uh, differently, even though it's a line that I wouldn't play on the iwi for the first place, because I wrote it. I didn't play that. But after I writing that and I'm playing, I feel that I can change that or that, uh, because the iwi is saying, like it says to me, no, don't play the F sharp, play the F natural. It's better.
So it's like you kind of screen it, you test it with the
Yeah, yeah,
EWI,
yeah,
and then
yeah.
basically you're getting the ideas from it. I
Yeah,
see.
the instruments actually give me the right direction, in the
Okay.
writing. I'm not writing with a MIDI because, first of all, it's very, the iwi is sending so much information, so there's a lot of things to fix when you're playing with iwi, more than when you're playing with keyboard.
Right.
The breath, all that stuff. It's also written.
Yeah.
So you have to filter that out. So when you filter all this thing out, the iwi doesn't sound like iwi.
Right.
Uh, so I want to play naturally with the instrument.
Right. Right.
Naturally also it's not a natural it's not like a nature instrument.
Yeah. Of
But
course it
saxophone
was.
also, yeah, it's like electric guitar. I feel it's like electric guitar in this sense that it's it's made out. It's not natural instrument, but it is going with electric and it's like classical guitar and electric guitar that they have the both.
Right.
You can express yourself with electric guitar, not with a classical guitar. And I believe that in the beginning, like in the 40s or something, the people will look um, on musicians that play electric guitar in this way. Why you pick the electric to try to play, without electric?
Yeah.
Uh, but now I think it's like, when you say that you're playing on electric guitar, no one raise, your eyes and say, "Oh, well, this is not a legit instrument," which they're still saying about the Iwi. It's funny because when I'm
It
playing
is.
like a classical gig, like with a symphonic orchestra and stuff. So like I'm coming to the rehearsal, and all the violin section are moving aside, like I don't want to get near to this monster. But it takes it takes like few minutes, and then we're all good because they realize that it's instrument, it's a musical instrument, and it doesn't matter the instrument itself, it's what you do with that.
Right. You also pretty much, I mean, as far as if I will differentiate certain things that you do from other musicians that I know that play the Iwi or EVI, is that you do a lot with Middle Eastern music, Arabic music, Makam music.
Yeah.
The way that you, well, I mean, just the stuff that you recorded along the years. That I also had the chance to do some things with you together. I mean, this is tunings, working with tunings on the Iwi,
Yeah.
working with phrasing, these type of phrasings. This is very special stuff.
It's funny because I started it was like an accident. The first this instrument, there's no case for that. I mean, also for the 4000, there's no case. I mean, you buy an instrument and there's no case for the instrument. It's just cardboard.
Yeah, right.
It's a box. It's just this box. So I had like a violin box, and I put the instrument in a violin box. And in the college that I teach, there's a guy who's playing like Arab music. Is into it. Yair Dalal is his name.
Mm-hmm.
And he told me, "Oh, you're playing the violin?" I said, no, I'm not playing the violin. I'm playing Iwi. He said, what is Iwi? So I opened the box, and he was amazed. I mean, he saw this white thing there. He said, what is that? And I told him that it's electric instrument. It's electric wind instrument. So he said, we must play something together. So he gave me his music. I learned it, and I started to get into it, to the makams, and it's what they call it Oriental, Eastern Oriental, and local Oriental music.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that in the beginning I was like doing a special tuning, like in keyboard that you can put quarter notes. It's actually 3/4 of a note, and I realized that it doesn't sound good. So what I'm doing is I'm taking the pitch bend to 80% of a half note. I believe I
Come again.
explained it myself.
80% of a half note.
Of a half note.
Okay.
It's I'm raising the sensitivity not for one note below. It's like two semitones.
Right.
It's one semitone and a little bit less than one semitone. That means
Okay.
that if I'm taking all the way down, I will get like almost quarter note. More than a little bit more the quarter note. It's like 80% of a note.
Mm-hmm.
It's more than quarter note, but I'm not taking all the way down. So because the pitch bend are sensitive, so I'm playing like oud, like a violin. So
Mm-hmm.
there's no, it's not a special point. It's just it's a place where you can play. So you're very flexible with the pitch,
Mm-hmm.
so I can play it very naturally. So I'm not tuning. It's a normal tuning. I'm not playing with a special tuning, but my pitch bend is tuned to that.
Okay.
So I can play those three quarters of a note that it's part of the macams. And it
Cool.
took me a while, to get the feel, because the feel is different,
Right.
because they are different, like it's not exactly three quarters in each note. It's like the leading tone have to be a little bit more high, and the flat two have to be a little bit more low. It's not. It's not D flat is not D flat. It's D flat in different pitch in every key.
Wow.
So I'm using that, and so it was a period that I was playing like makams and Arabic music,
Mm-hmm.
and now I'm just doing mix between those. So
I mean, yeah, because I know that you have a project now that you're playing basically traditional Hebrew,
Hebrew music, yeah.
traditional Hebrew music.
Yeah,
Uh,
I call it Hebrew music because it was written before 48, and the text and the music was basically about the land, about the how to raise or to grow trees and stuff like that. And it wasn't the text wasn't it wasn't about people, between people. It was only about that.
okay.
And aside of that, the music was written as a mix between the Arab modes that were here and the European harmony. So
Okay.
it's like a mix between those two. The Israeli pop today it's like Dutch pop today, or
Yeah.
Norwegian pop today. It's no different than that. There's two pops. It's like a Mediterranean pop and Western pop.
Right.
And I moved to the other stuff. So I want to make a new kind of a thing. It's
Cool. So you're going back, kind
I'm
of like
going back like 80
digging.
years ago, and
Wow.
taking this kind of music, and trying to actually uh, uh, to bring this very beautiful music in a it's not mine. It's music that was written and composed by very fine composers, and to put it today in what I call it
Contemporary
atifa,
setting. Contemporary setting.
contemporary setting. Yeah, contemporary setting, that it will get to the ears of the young people of today,
Okay.
and it will get to the ears of the old people. So it will be a mix between those two.
Interesting.
But it's like it's to take a traditional Hebrew. It's not Jewish. It's a Hebrew or Israeli Hebrew
Right.
music, and to put it like in today sound.
Right. How do you feel about when playing such an instrument, the iwi, in a band setting? Do you find any type of challenges? Do you find it to work? Do you find it not to work? It's always an interesting thing, I guess. When
It's a very versatile instrument. So
yeah,
I like very much to play in a very small setup, uh, because I feel I don't know. I believe that it's only me. Um, I feel more free when there's more space, and I don't have to fight with sound with heavy instruments.
right.
Uh, so for me, I believe that small trio, it could be like a small jazz gig,
Mm-hmm.
like a guitar, upright and Ewe. It's a very compact sound,
Mm-hmm.
and then I feel more comfortable with my Articulation, for example, dynamic. The instrument is very, very dynamic. The pianissimo of this instrument is amazing. I mean, you can play something that if you don't put your ear near the loudspeaker, you don't know that I'm playing. And without touch the amplifier, you can play unbearable sound. So it's the dynamic range is unbelievably wide. And when I'm playing with a loud instrument like heavy drums and guitars and electric basses, I don't know, and horns, big band stuff. So you have to play all the time in the high range of the dynamic, and this like taking out the sting of this instrument. The main thing in this instrument is dynamic. So you don't you eliminate that from the music. So you have to play something. I'm playing differently when I'm doing that.
Right.
It's like to play with distortion all the time, So it's different playing. It's different playing than to play clean and soft and smooth sound.
Right.
And it's also depends also on the patch that I'm taking.
Right.
Sometimes the patch is very harsh patch, and it demands like aggressive playing. And sometimes the patch is very soft, and it demands like a soft playing. So it's
right.
I'm running after the patch.
Right. Let's talk about that. That thing I mentioned in the beginning, which for me is still one of the beautiful things that when I hear you, that always shines in my ears, is that the way that you articulate and the way that you phrase. I wonder. I mean, maybe it's a difficult question to answer, obviously, because it's like, how do you play like you play? But if you can think about maybe some certain examples you can give me, where did you draw your influences from?
I believe that it's the trumpet experience and the mix between the trumpet and saxophone. It's
okay.
Because I feel I like more the tonguing, like in every. Right. It's not like a taka 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 taka, but the tongue is there all the time. It's like a stick for a drummer, and I like very much the tonguing, the Clifford Brown tonguing and Miles Davis tonguing, the early Miles, and more than that, it's not the fast. It's the crispy the crisp sounds that you get with the tongue, because in the Iwi, especially the patches that I'm using, the tongue give like extra bite, extra harmonics to the sound.
Okay.
And the and the saxophone, in the saxophone, I used less tongue. It was like more
like a legato type of phrasing.
It's a legato phrasing, and the mix between them, I found it. I didn't play saxophone like that, and I didn't play trumpet like that. So I'm playing Iwi like in mix between those two, and I find it very, very convincing for me. Yeah. It's and it helps me also, like to flow on time, because this is my main thing, like it's the tongue. When I'm not playing with tongue, when I'm playing the legato, I feel like moving out of or drifting with my time, and the tonguing just helps me more to stay tuned with time.
Okay.
It's like extra click that I'm doing with my tongue. So it's.
I remember when I came, when I came as a teenager to take lessons with you. The first thing that I remember is you had this enormous library of Joe Viola etudes and sight reading books and all this stuff, and some things which are not even published. and you had them, and you always and used to give me this, to practice, and in the beginning for me this was like a whole I didn't really get it. Um, but what I do remember is that I always come back to those etudes. There's something about, again, the language and the note selections and how he builds his compositions. And
Uh-huh.
of course, I don't know him personally, but I only know him basically through you. But is this somebody that was influencing you musically?
Yeah, I think it's him, obviously, because he was a great teacher, and saxophone teacher. But
Mm-hmm.
more than that, he was a great person. First of all, I mean, he was like eager to help all the time. They just you, you feel that he is really interesting in you. I mean,
Okay.
and he had a zillion of students, but it looks like that you are the only one. And I believe that he was doing that for everyone, because everyone that was studying with him had the same experience. That I'm the only one. I'm the only student, but like there's million of students behind and after me. But
Yeah.
but he gave this feeling. But aside of that, he's a composer. He wasn't known as a composer, but I mean, he's a composer. I think even more than as a saxophone, him as a saxophone player.
Okay.
And for me, I was a film scoring major, so I wrote, and my music is basically influenced from a lot of 20th century composers. So I'm
Mm.
familiar to this sound. I mean, it's not a traditional bebop kind of a sound. It's much more risky. It's more abstract,
Mm.
and I like it more. I mean, I like to play Parker, like straightforward bebop. But I believe that I like to play the abstract music and to make music out of that abstract, because it's not a linear, figurative kind of a thing. It's like to see a Kandinsky picture, and to get inside and to find the figures uh, w- without seeing any figure. I mean, you can see a face of a baby and it's okay, but you but this kind of music it's not talking about, for example, old guys. So you can see old guy like in a picture, like a grandfather picture, but I'm talking about old age. So old
Mm.
age is not a guy. It's
I see.
a it's
Yeah.
a idea.
Yeah.
So it's not to paint the tree. It's to paint the wind. It's not tree in a wind. It's only the wind to paint the wind. So I feel it like that, to paint, to play the wind and not the figures.
Right. Wow.
I found out that I'm less and less uh, figurative in my playing. I like it very much, like to
Mm.
take it, to explore these kind of things uh,
Wow.
in the playing.
Great. That's a beautiful answer. I'll take that. Great. 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 And so I know that you play the Iwi exclusively, and you always been kind of, but not really anymore. And this maybe leads me to the next question: is that I know that you've been experimenting with other type of controllers as well. Um,
Yeah.
and maybe you can say some words about that.
I actually start endorsing this guy, the
Yeah.
Silvio.
Wow.
It's a very, very, very nice instrument. It's a very sensitive instrument. It's actually dramatically sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
Um and I had to get have to get used to it, but I find it more and more helpful to my playing.
Mm-hmm.
Um I'm not comfortable yet on this instrument, like I'm playing Iwi, but hey, I'm playing Iwi like 30 years already,
Yeah.
and I'm playing this instrument only for a few months. But
Mm-hmm.
it's a very, very nice instrument. It's totally wireless, and it's dramatically advantage for the instrument.
What do you find about it which is so interesting?
The interesting stuff is, first of all, it's different. It's different. First of all, it's different. I mean, the
Okay.
fingering, everything is different there. Uh, but it doesn't feel like a weird instrument. I mean, when you're playing it, the human engineer there, it's very the guys that help to pick the sizes
Yeah.
of the instrument. It doesn't remind anything. But it's very comfortable to. I mean, they always feels like a soprano, kind of a soprano. And this instrument doesn't feel like anything that I know. I mean, it's not a flute, it's not a recorder, it's not a soprano. It's
Mm.
Silvio.
Right.
Yeah, and it's very nice. I believe that when those guys will put more sound into it, because now the main thing is the sound, actually, the analog sound that you need to get from the instrument. Also, the Silvio sound very nice on analog sound, or even in Respiro. I'm using the Respiro as my main
Right.
VST,
Mm-hmm.
and it sounds very, the Respiro, like singing better with Silvio. It's like opening the Respiro more than that what
Wow.
it has to. And it's very nice instrument, actually. And I believe it will kick out. It
Right.
will give his raising up
Great.
in popularity.
Beautiful. So Respira is your main VST. Are there any other VSTs or any type of hardware or any particular instruments that you use or that you always go to? Um,
um, I have I think I can show it here.
oh yeah,
So we can see here the
the
this is
whole
the
that's
the the, the 3020 analog module.
right,
It's a very, very nice analog module. It doesn't have any effect, but it's very. The other thing is up there. There's the Evolver,
right.
which is a very fine instrument, and it's very compact, and it's analog, and I like it very much.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is the Oberheim Matrix 1000. This is like a nuclear analog bum, and the VST and the inner sound of the Iwi. So there's sometimes I mix all them together. So like it's
Wow,
Evolver, Oberheim, Patchman, and Respiro together.
wow,
The EVI also, EVI-ner, it's a very fine analog like. It's not analog. It's a VST, but it feels like analog
right,
sound, uh, and I like it very much also. So sometimes it's a mix between them. But my main, I mean, when I'm opening the computer, my main instrument now is first of all is Respiro,
okay,
and it's very easy to take it away. I believe when Rudy will raise the glove and will make like a small module that it will be easy to take without a computer or anything. You just hook it to the IWI and it will be a hardware. I
right,
believe that will be the game changer.
right.
Uh, I've seen that Ingo was doing this.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Yeah.
The espresso, which is very interesting. I've never played on the espresso before,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm not familiar enough to that. And there's a lot of companies around. There's a Swarm. Swarm is very interesting. But I believe that I feel much more comfortable in the analog world. It gave me like a real acoustic instrument.
Yeah, it's more about, like you said, it's the wind. It's not the trees. It's the
Yeah.
it gives the image of something which is bigger than actually something specific.
Yeah,
It just
I,
feels
I,
that much better.
I'm not into playing flute like a flute player on a flute sound.
Right.
For that, there's flute players, or I
Right.
can play the flute. I used to play flute and clarinet and saxophone, but when I'm playing iwi, I want to be sound like iwi, not like another instrument. Even
Right.
though I'm doing it that, like with samplers, you can do that.
Right.
But I'm not into it. Sometimes I have to do that, like in recording, I have to play like clarinet or cello or whatever. So it's okay, but this is not my main sound when I'm playing my stuff. I like to play the analog. It sounds like a wind instrument, or combination between wind and brass instrument without
Mm-hmm.
being any one of them. It's not trumpet, but it's trumpet-like.
No, I hear
It's
you.
not flute. It's flute-like. But I believe it's combination between flugelhorn and flute kind of a thing. It's a dark, wide, medium sound that not bright.
Yeah.
It's not dark, very dark, but it's a medium sound. So
I remember you
that's what I
also
find.
did you also mention that for example VG Trumpet he made also a bank for the 4000, which you also, I know that you use.
Yeah. That's I'm using a few of his patches. It's brilliant. I mean, he's done a brilliant work there, and I like it very much. Actually, my main instrument now it's a combination between Patchman and VG trumpet.
Right.
It's a VG 4000. I don't remember the name of the bank,
Mm-hmm.
but a VG bank for the 4000.
Right.
So it's half, like 50 sounds from Patchman and 50 sounds of VG,
Yeah.
and I'm moving between them. Even though it's when you pick the horn, I'm not searching sound because it would be a drag. It's
Right.
like searching a mouthpiece or a reed or ligature or neck for the saxophone. There's guys who are spending all their lives for that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Definitely.
for me, it's
Yeah, for sure.
kind of I don't want to waste the time for that.
I hear you.
Even though it's part of the deal, it's you have to search all the time to search sound, to search the way that you play, to search the way that you write, the way that you improvise. It's a lifetime searching.